Hello, everyone. It's good to talk to everyone today. Today, we're going to go through a presentation about 9 ways to reduce your risk of cancer. Okay, so as I'm going through the presentation, which is going to be a lot of important information, if you have questions, you can put the questions in the chat or just write them down. And at the end, I will make sure to allow time for questions. Okay. All right. So let's go to our next slide here. So these are some common things that come up, some common questions that come up when people are faced with cancer or they think they may be faced with cancer. Some of the common things we hear is like, it doesn't matter what I do. If I'm going to get cancer, I'll get it no matter what. So one thing you want to keep in mind is that half of all cancers are preventable through healthy lifestyle choices. So statements like these are not true. What you want to do is you want to moderate your lifestyle and you want to make sure that you're living a type of life that's going to put you in the best health possible. And you want to do the things you can control to prevent your risk of cancer. Okay. So now let's talk about some of the things we can do to lower your risk for cancer. All right, our next slide. Okay, so one thing is that you want to keep in mind is even though people are very scared of the word cancer, cancer is not inevitable. That means there's a lot of things you can do to prevent your risk of cancer. And if someone is facing cancer, there are things you can do and steps you can take to treat the cancer and to improve your outcomes. Okay, one thing you want to keep in mind is that a lot of cancers, if they're detected early, they're most treatable. So today we're going to go through some objectives for today. Some things we want to keep in mind is that we want to make sure that we increase your awareness of things you can do to reduce your risk of cancer, even if you're facing cancer, things you can do to help improve your outcomes. Also want you to be motivated to identify and adopt cancer risk reduction behaviors to lower your risk for cancer, and also empowering you to talk to your doctor. Even if you're noticing symptoms that are uncomfortable, that you can talk to your doctor so you can get the recommended screening exams. Okay. So let's go to our next slide here. So the first thing we can do, number one of our 9 ways to reduce your risk of cancer, is to maintain a healthy weight. And for some people, for a lot of people, this can be very challenging, just maintaining a healthy weight throughout our lifetime. But a healthy weight is going to reduce your risk of several different types of cancer. If a person is obese or overweight, they actually increase their risk of different types of cancers. The body weight that we hold and the body fat actually produces different hormones and can produce a lot of inflammation around our organs. And this can contribute to different types of cancers. So maintaining a healthy weight is going to be number one. Okay. Right. Okay. So, other things we can do to reduce our risk of cancer is that we can eat less and move a lot more. Okay, so number one, if you need to lose weight, you want to find ways to eat and consume and eat fewer calories, and you want to find ways you can burn calories by exercising. Sometimes people get very focused just at the number on the scale that they're seeing, but what you want to think about is you want to think about both diet and exercise. You want to get moving because all the fluids in our body, our blood, our lymph, our bowels, and need movement from us in order to kind of help improve our health. And also it helps when we're eating a healthy diet, we're getting the food, the fiber, the minerals and vitamins that we're needing to help improve our health and improve our body as well too. So remember, it's not just eating, it's both eating and exercising. Okay. Okay, number two, talking about eating, is you want to eat a plant-based diet. Okay, so when I say this, a lot of people automatically think they have to be vegetarian. Plant-based does not necessarily mean that you are vegetarian. What it does mean is that about 2/3 of your plate or your diet is consisting of plant foods. So these are going to be things like vegetables, whole grain, fruit. Okay, the other 1/3 can be protein sources, where those proteins come from meat or from plant proteins. Okay, so again, a lot of the fruits and minerals and vitamins that give us, or the vegetables and fruit gives us a lot of minerals and vitamins. It's going to help our body. It helps us move food through our body, and it gives our body the strength that it needs in order to combat some of the toxins that we're dealing with on a daily basis. Okay, and also the fiber is important as well too, as well as the movement, because it's going to help move the food throughout our body. So again, you want to make sure you're looking at both 2/3 of your diet with plant-based foods, and make sure it includes a variety of vegetables, whole grains, and fruit and vegetables. Okay, next slide. All right. And some other things you want to keep in mind with the other 2/3 of your diet. The other 1/3, because 2/3 is your plant foods. The other 1/3 can be protein sources. Now, if not 1/3, if you consume red meat, you want to limit the red meat. Okay. Red meat is going to basically be anything that's 4 feet or more. Okay. So it's going to be including, your obvious red meat, but also it's going to include like pork and other animals as well too. So with red meat, you want to keep these guidelines in mind. You want to keep these recommendations as far as like how much you're limiting it. You want to have no more than 12 to 18 ounces of cooked red meat a week. And so these are some good judges on the image you see here. You see like golf ball size. This can be a serving. And on average, I like to tell people like imagine the size of a deck of cards, which for most people is about the size of the palm of your hand. So if you have no more than, let's say, a 6 deck of cart size servings of red meat a week, that's going to keep you right at or around the 12 to 18 ounces of cooked red meat a week. Okay. And the other you can do if you consume other than red meat, you can consume other forms of meat like white meat or vegetable proteins as well too. Next slide. Okay, so some questions for you guys. All right. So give me a thumbs up if you think eating processed meats like bacon and deli meats increases your risk of cancer. Okay. All right, so I can't see a lot of you out there, so I'm going to assume if you gave me a thumbs up, you are correct. All right. So one thing you want to keep in mind is that processed meats have a lot of additives added to it, and so are that are not good for us. So you want to limit those type of things, and they do increase your risk of cancer. Okay. So on this slide you see here is that instead of the processed meats, which a lot of people like, you can want to think about adding real meats. Okay. So for example, you see hot dogs. Instead of a hot dogs, you can do like using real cuts of chicken or turkey or other things. Or like I tell people sometimes like chicken salad sandwiches. Those type of things are great because you're getting the real meat and you're limiting the processed meat. Excuse me, down below you see like your sliced deli meats, and so instead you can find other cuts of meat that you can add onto a salad. So just try to limit the processed meats you're consuming and make thinking of how you can make other choices so you're not consuming as much processed meat. All right. Number 3 on our list is to stay active. Okay. So a lot of times, sometimes people will focus us on one aspect of keeping a healthy diet, of maintaining a healthy weight. So we talked about eating well. Number 3 is staying active. So one thing to keep in mind is that you want to find ways to just move more. Sometimes when I talk about exercise with people, they kind of think, oh, well, I don't want to exercise. I don't like exercising. Think of things you enjoy that's going to keep you active. Take quick walks, do activities with your kids if you have children. When you want to find ways to sit less, because when you sit too much, it increases the body fat and that leads to the cancer and other chronic diseases. Also, when you're more active, you're helping to move fluids and food throughout your body, that you're consuming. So you want to just make sure that you find ways to get up maybe 1 or 2 minutes every hour. Some people use tracking devices like Fitbits or Apple Watches or you have tracking devices on your phone that can kind of cue you or trigger you to move every hour if you want to. And that can be something to kind of help train us and make sure we're moving more. Okay, so on this slide here, what you see are the recommendations for movement. Okay, so you want to aim for 150 minutes of moderate activity a week, and moderate activity basically going to be the things you see on a screen. So things like walking, mild yoga, even like housework type of things, like whether it be cleaning or mowing the lawn or gardening. But try to find ways to do things you enjoy, incorporate it into your lifestyle. And 150 minutes can be about like 30 minutes, 5 days a week, or you can break it up however you like. But just find ways to get even as little as 10 minutes of activity at a time. Okay, next slide. All right. Or if you're into more vigorous activities, you can do like 75 minutes of vigorous activity a week. So vigorous means that you're huffing and puffing a little bit more. It's harder to talk when you do the activity, and you're more likely to break a sweat. So things like, of course, swimming, running, bicycling, like playing basketball or some kind of sport, things that take a little bit, really increase your heart rate a lot more. If you do vigorous activity, 75 minutes is what's recommended a week to make sure you're moving enough for your body's function. When you do more than 75 minutes, you're really going more toward weight loss. But you want to make sure that you're getting either 150 minutes of moderate or 75 minutes of vigorous. Okay. You also want to incorporate strength training. The reason why this is important is because you want to incorporate strength training twice a week. But as we all get older, we lose muscle mass in our body. It's just harder to maintain the muscles that we used to. And for anyone who has witnessed that, you know that it's sometimes harder to lose weight as we get older. So you want to find ways of keeping your muscles strong. And it doesn't always have to involve weights, because people think of strength training as like lifting weights, but it's really anything where your body is resisting a force. So even things like swimming, again, if you're swimming or even just walking in a pool, you're resisting the water against you. Or if you're doing yoga, or or picking up things, all those things are using resistance bands. So all of those things are resisting a force, and a good ideas and things you can do for strength training. Okay. All right. Next slide. Okay, number 4 is don't smoke or use tobacco. And this is a big one, okay? You want to keep in mind that, for example, lung cancer is like the number one cancer for everyone in the United States. So the more if you avoid tobacco in all forms, you're doing a big part for your health to prevent the most common cause of death, one of the most common causes of death, and you're preventing many types of cancers in your body. Cigarette smoking alone contributes to 80% of all lung cancer cases. And so if someone is smoking and they quit smoking, they're taking a big step toward improving their health. Even if you don't smoke, you don't want to be around it. And this also includes vaping. You don't want to be around any tobacco products at all, whether it's hookah, vaping, or any of those. You want to stay away from them as much as possible. Okay. Secondhand smoke is when someone's not smoking, but you're breathing in the smoke from the end of a lit cigarette, or you're breathing in smoke or vape from vape pens that from if they're exhaled by the smoker into the air. So the best way to protect yourself from secondhand smoke is to try not to be around it. If people are smoking around you, ask them to go outside, or just try to remove yourself from the situation if possible. You want to prevent this type of exposure. Okay. All right. Next slide. Okay, so give another question for you guys. Give a thumbs up if you think that e-cigarettes are a good way to quit smoking. All right. If you gave me a thumbs up, the answer is false. E-cigarettes are not proven as a safe way to quit smoking. So let's talk a little bit more about e-cigarettes, because this is a popular thing that we're seeing a lot nowadays. So I know in the media, and a lot of times people are really advertising and pushing for the use of e-cigarettes. Things you want to remember is that e-cigarettes are just as dangerous, if not more dangerous, than cigarettes. Okay, so e-cigarettes go by different names: vape pens, e-mods, so many different names that are out there. They're not proven safe. They're not fully regulated by the FDA, and they're not been proven as a way to help people quit smoking. And also, it mimics smoking, and sometimes it can even, some people who use e-cigarettes can then move on to things like smoking cigarettes. E-cigarettes deliver different a nicotine aerosol into the body, even if it's labeled as like an artificial nicotine. It's all bad. So just keep in mind, it's not safer than cigarettes, and it's not an effective way to quit smoking. You want to avoid everything. All right. And same with kids and teens. They advertise these products so much to kids and teens because these tobacco companies are trying to get young kids addicted to these products before the age of 18. So educate them as well too. All the jewels, whatever they're going by, however they look, if they're flavored, no matter what they think it is tobacco, and it is not good for their health, and it's not good for anyone's health that's around them that's also breathing in these substances. So you want to avoid this because it's going to protect you from different types of cancers. Number 5, limit alcohol. And so even though I can't see you guys or hear you, I can, when I say this to people, kind of cringe, okay? But you want to keep in mind that for cancer risk reduction, you want to limit alcohol as much as you can, okay? So if someone feels like they are at a higher risk for cancer, you want to limit alcohol. However, even the small amounts of alcohol can increase your risk of cancer. So for cancer prevention, you want to avoid it. But for safety, according to Centers for Disease Control. If you are a woman, 1 drink a day is recommended for safety, just for safety, alcohol safety. And if you're a man, 2 drinks a day are recommended for safety. Okay, so that means that if you're not concerned about cancer and you want to have alcohol, you want to not exceed those amounts. Okay, and you also can't add them all up and have them on the weekend. So you just want to try to limit them as much as possible. And it's also a lot of extra calories and sugars and alcohol. Some people think they're doing really good with their diet and exercise, and they don't think about the calories and additives that are in alcohol. So again, you want to think about what you're putting in your body and how you can protect yourself. Okay. All right. Next slide. Okay, number 6, okay, we're moving right along here, is to get vaccinated. All right, so there are certain viruses that are known to cause cancer, and one of them is the human papillomavirus, or you may have heard of as HPV. This is commonly a sexually transmitted infection that can lead to different types of cancers. But how and nearly most everyone will get a HPV at some point in their life. 9 out of 10 HPV infections go away on their own. However, if they don't go away, they are highly, highly correlated with many different types of cancers. Okay, and so the best way to prevent that is to get vaccinated against it. You don't want a virus that you're getting in you to put you at a higher risk for cancer if you can avoid it through a vaccine. All right, so again, you want to make sure and talk to your doctor to see if you've never had this vaccine before and see if you need to have it. Okay. Another question for you guys. Give a thumbs up if you think the HPV vaccine is recommended for both boys and girls. All right. If you gave me a thumbs up, you are correct. The HPV vaccine is recommended for both boys and girls. Okay. So again, it's another reason why you want to make sure we have that. The HPV vaccine protects against cancer. Like I mentioned, it is safe and known to be very effective. It can prevent over 90% of cancers that are caused by HPV. Okay. And so again, these include things like anal, vaginal, cervical cancer, vulvar precancers. These are all things that can lead to cancer. And again, sometimes people don't even realize that they may have it. It is, you don't know if you are infected with an HPV infection necessarily, but again, that could lead to these type of cancers. The recommended age in general for males and females is anywhere between the ages of 9 to 26. But even if you're 27 to 45, that you still want to talk with your doctor. Even if you're older than 45, you can still talk to your doctor about your risk and if you want to go ahead and have this vaccine. So just consider having this done. It can do a lot to prevent you from getting those type of cancers. Okay. Other vaccines you want to keep in mind. Get the hepatitis B vaccine. Okay, so hepatitis B causes liver cancer. Okay, you may have been vaccinated from from hepatitis B when you're a baby or a child. If you're born in the United States, if you're not born in the United States, you may not have been vaccinated against Hep B. So again, it's something you can get tested for that to see if you have antibodies for this vaccine, and you can talk to your doctor about it. Again, if you can, it was one thing to maintain a healthy weight, which can be a challenge for a lot of people throughout their life, but getting a vaccine can be very simple. And that can protect you from things that maybe you don't know about or from things you might be prone to developing. So definitely talk to your doctor about making sure that you have the vaccines that are needed for you. Okay. All right, number 7, let's get screened. Okay, so a lot of times people get busy with their life and they avoid their screening tests, or maybe they hear of someone who's developed cancer or got sick, and they have come across these barriers from getting screened. But it's important to get screened for cancer. One thing you want to keep in mind is that, again, having cancer is not a death wish. If someone is found to have cancer, if they are screened, you want to find it early, and the only way to find cancer early is to stay on top of your screenings. Okay, so let's talk about some of the recommended ages for screening tests. Okay, so I'm going to go through both men and women. First, you're going to see the recommended tests for women. Okay, so this is what test do I need? This is ages 21 to 29. So women in their 20s should get, of course, a Pap test and look for cervical cancer every 3 years, beginning at the age of 21. And the clinical breast exam, and that's done, in a clinic every 1 to 3 years. Okay, so that is that one. Next slide. Okay. If you are ages 30 to 39, then you want to make sure you're talking to your doctor about an HPV test, with or without a Pap test every 5 years, just to look for that. And you also want to make sure you're considering still having a clinical breast exams every 1 to 3 years. Okay. Um, and I will also mention on top of this too, on top of seeing these, that you also want to look for changes in your body. A lot of people might have, you know, may have precursors to certain types of cancer. So if you have people in your family that might, um, put you at a higher risk for certain types of cancers, or if you're having certain types of symptoms that are questionable, talk to your doctor about them, bring them up, to see if you might need to go into screening earlier. Okay. But going back to the slide, if women ages 40 to 41, HPV testing, making sure you're staying on top of that. Make sure you stay on top of your Pap test. This is when you want to start getting mammograms, and still continuing your clinical breast exam every year. Okay, and again, your doctor will kind of talk to you about these, but sometimes if the tests are normal, they'll just have you come back in. If they're not, they may have you do a more diagnostic test. But again, this is why you want to talk to your doctor about having these tests. Now, starting at age 45 for women, you want to make sure that you are having a colonoscopy. The colonoscopy is every 10 years. You also want to continue getting yearly mammograms and clinical breast exams, and an HPV test is every 5 years as well, too. Okay. All right. Now let's go to our men here. So here we go for men, ages 45 to 74. You want to make sure you're still talking to your doctor. If you want to talk to your doctor about a prostate cancer screening, okay. If you choose to be screened, you want to make sure you get the PSA test. And that's, and strongly consider a baseline digital rectal exam, okay? And you have the colonoscopy every 10 years. Okay. All right. And then other tests you need for men, for any men and women ages 75 and older, you want to talk to your doctor just to make sure that they are, to see what screening tests you still need to consider at that point, and that way your doctor can make sure they're staying on top of your health, since at that point they have a lot of history for you. Okay. Okay, another thing you want to get tested for is hepatitis C. So just like Hep B, hepatitis C also causes liver cancer and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Unfortunately, there's no vaccine against Hep C, but again, it's something you want to be tested for, so that if that is there, or possibly there, then your doctor can help to look out for these types of things and really make sure that you are doing things to prevent the development of the liver cancer or the lymphoma. Okay, so just make sure that that you're getting tested for this, because it can be treated, and the treatment is 90% success rate. All right. So, on top of all of our screening exams, you want to make sure you're protecting yourself from the UV sun or UV rays in the sun. Okay. So, you want to stay in the shade. You want to avoid going outdoors between the 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., which in Houston weather, as hot as it's been, has been the case for a lot of us. We've been wanting to stay inside, but you do want to protect your skin. Okay. So, this is for all ages. Number one, you want to make sure that you're using sunscreen if you are outside, especially during those times between 10 o'clock to 4 p.m. You want to cover up with dark, tightly woven clothing, wear sunglasses, wear a hat, and wear sunscreen, even sometimes indoors if you are around glasses that don't filter out the UV radiation light, because we do want to protect our skin. It's our largest organ, and sometimes we forget about our skin and knowing that we need to protect it. Okay, number 9, you want to know your family history, and this is a big one. Only now, keep in mind, only 5 to 10% of cancers are hereditary, but you still want to know your family history. You want to know if you are at a higher risk for developing some of these types of cancers. Now, of course, no one can change their family history, but it is good to know about because you might will either need to consider genetic testing or counseling, and then also you might need to talk to your doctor about any kind of family histories for certain types of cancer. So, because you may need to start getting your screening results early. And the only way to do that is to talk to people, share your stories with your family. A lot of families kind of don't like to talk about their own personal health histories with each other, but you want to share this information because we share those genes with our family. We want to make sure that we are preparing our loved ones for the best health possible. Okay. All right, let's talk about lowering our risk. Okay, so I can lower my risk by, and these are all things we can do. Some things we talked about. Number one, maintaining a healthy weight. Okay, and the things we talked about with that is eating a plant-based diet, staying active, and not using tobacco, not smoking or using tobacco. Okay. You can also lower your risk by limiting alcohol, okay? Making sure that you get an HPV and hepatitis B vaccine, get tested for Hep C, and make sure you're staying on top of your screening recommendation screenings, protecting your son, and making sure that you know your family history, okay? So these are the 9 things you can do and everyone can do to reduce their risk of cancer, okay? So thank you guys. So just let you know, our goal here is to prevent cancer. I always have to tell people that even though we're MD Anderson, our goal is to educate everyone. So even if you can't come to MD Anderson, go to your doctors, go to your clinics, wherever you can to get these tests and to do what you need to do to make sure you're taking care of your health. Okay. And it's and that's why this is important. All right. And so I also want to mention too, all these programs we do here are free. We love to come and meet with people wherever they are. So if it's a church or if it's a small group, anywhere, if you're ever interested in having us come and talk to a group that you know, you go to mdanderson.org/community. There's a lot of all our presentations there. You can sign up for a presentation or an exhibit, and we'd love to come out. Okay. All right, you guys have been great. I'm going to talk about a couple other things here. I want to open up for questions here in a second. But number one, you see on the screen, if we can go back on the screen, you'll see a QR code. And so if you this helps us, it helps us with our presentations to make sure we're doing a good job. It also tells them how well I'm doing with your presentations today. So if you can to act like you're taking a picture of this, and this code, it'll box will appear around the QR code. And it's a very quick survey. If you can take that survey for us, I'll greatly appreciate it. All right. And but I'm going to show you one other thing here. All right, we have a great program I want to mention for anyone that's interested. It's an 8-week program. It's called Text to Move. Okay, with this program, you will get a Fitbit. Now that's one of the tracking devices you wear in your arm that can tell you to remind you to be active. Okay, so if you're interested in that and it gives you daily text messages to keep you moving, just email text TEXT to move at mdanderson.org to sign up. Okay. So just as an 8-week program, free Fitbit, it'll be wonderful. Okay. So we'll go back to the other screen. Okay. And that's sure. Okay. Perfect. All right. So I would love to open up for questions. And we also are always in need for blood. Okay. So if you want to donate blood, you can also contact us there.